Hi, welcome to Donegal Dad. I'm Mark. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button for me, please. Today we're going to be looking at ballasting our track. For my ballasting, I don't really do anything different to anybody else. I put it on using a spoon. I've got some soft and hard bristle brushes here for sweeping out the ballast. I spray it with water to wet it down and then use diluted PVA glue with a drop of washing up liquid fed through a pipette to glue it in place. The ballast I use, I've got some aquarium gravel here, which I picked up this 2 kilo bag in a pet shop. I think it was for about £4. I've also got the traditional Woodland Scenic Ballast here. Now this is about £13 a tub. And then I also use bird grit, again picked up in a pet shop. That bag there cost me £2.50. Now you notice with these, they're all slightly different colours, just as it is in the real world on railways. Ballast is all different colours, shapes and sizes. I like using this aquarium gravel because I think it's a very close approximation of the gravel that's used for the ballast. And then the bird grit has also got some different colours in there, so it can be from a different region. So to demonstrate the difference between the gravels I use, I'm going to ballast these 3 sets of track differently using the different ballasts. So the aquarium gravel, the Woodland Scenic Ballast and the bird grit, just so you can see the differences. So before you start ballasting, make sure the area around the track itself is all clean. Give it a good vacuum so it picks up any little bits between the sleepers, and then you can start to ballast. So when I'm starting ballasting, I find it handier to put the ballast into a tub like this, an old ice cream tub, because it's not as easy to knock that over and make a mess as it is if it's in a bag or one of the scenic material tubs. So it's just simply a matter of taking a spoonful at a time and just putting it on the track, and then using brush it along until it fills all the gaps in between the sleepers and it overspills the sides to start giving a shoulder effect. I have to admit, ballasting is not one of my favourite tasks. It's very tedious, I find. It takes a long time, but it really does give a great effect on the railway when you have it done. In the case of just carrying on like that, making sure there's no ballast left on the sleepers or anything that would foul the running off any trains on here. And you simply get your spoon and gently tap the rails, and that will help the ballast settle in between the sleepers. And then it's just repeat. So I'll carry on and do this. It's the same method with whatever I'm using, whether it's Woodland Scenic Ballast, aquarium gravel I'm using here, or the bird grit. So I'll carry on do that. I'll use the aquarium gravel on here, the Woodland Scenics on here, and the bird grit on here, and then you'll be able to see the differences. I will be going over with the airbrush over them, giving them some weathering as well, and we'll see how that looks. There's 3 sections of ballasting done. So using the small aquarium gravel, Woodland Scenic Ballast, and the bird grit. I'm going to show you how I fix the ballast in place now. Before you put any glue on it, first thing to do is get a wagon, run it up and down the track, just to make sure there's no ballast sticking in behind one of the rails that would get glued in place and then cause derailments. So I'm going to demonstrate on this section here, which is the way I do it for the whole lot. So give it a good soaking. So this is just water with a little bit of washing up liquid in it. And this is one of the reasons, if you have MDF as your baseboard, you need to seal it beforehand, because you will be using a lot of water when you ballast. Now we have the glue mixture, which I'm going to use a pipette for putting it on. This is 50-50 water PVA with a little drop of washing up liquid. The reason we use the washing up liquid is it helps break the surface tension of the water and helps everything soak in. So we just put that down the centre of the track. You don't usually need too much, but as you do it yourself, you'll be able to gauge what you need. And just along the sides. And that glue water mixture should seep through all the ballast, and as it dries, hold it in place. Now you can see on here there's some bare patches, which after I've got all the ballast in place, I will come back and put some shrubs and that sort of thing over it, just to blend it all in with the scenery. So I'll carry on with this and show you when I'm all done. The ballast is all glued in place now. When I sprayed with the water, it did disturb some of the ballast, so it's a good idea just to run the truck up and down to make sure the rails are clear after you've wetted it. I was using the pipette, and then I remembered I had one of these bottles, which is like a sauce bottle you'd get in a cafe. Great for filling up with your 50-50 PVA water mixture, and then you can just go down the track like that. It's a lot quicker, it's a lot handier than using a pipette. So we'll leave this to dry now. It'll probably take about 12 hours because it's quite warm out here in the train room this evening. So hopefully it'll be dry tomorrow. We can have a look at it, clean it up, run a couple of trains over it, make sure it's okay. And then we can go on to look at doing some scenic work down the centre and also some airbrushing. You can see it's a couple of days later. The ballast is all set in place. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through here now, clean off the loose ballast, make sure the rails and the sleepers are all clear, and go over it with a vacuum with the stocking on to collect up any ballast that's loose that we can use again. Couple of tips. When you're doing this sort of work or any scenic work, it's always good to start at the back and work your way forward so you're not going over work that you've already completed and possibly damaging it. Some of the footage I took earlier on of me ballasting the backtrack didn't come out that well, so I'm going to do a section over here, refilm it, so you can see how I done it. I'm going to show you how I ballast this track just from this angle so you get a better idea. I'm using the bird grit. So the way I do it is I just get a spoonful and just gently place it on the track, and using the brush just sweep it along. It's very time consuming and fiddly doing ballasting, but it does give a great effect on the railway. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it. It's your layout, it's your choice. You can see there as you keep brushing it along, it fills in between the sleepers. Just keep brushing along. And then when you're happy with that, just put some along the edge. Just to make shoulder, what I do is I take a brush and put it over the rail and just brush the sleepers off. As you can see, that clears the ballast away from the rail as well and creating a nice shoulder. So it's just a case of repeating that process. Some people like ballasting, some people don't. I'm one of the latter. I find it very fiddly and time consuming, and it's always one of the last jobs I want to do on my layout. But if you have a mixture of brushes, this one's a bit stiffer. I've got some softer ones and stiffer ones again. It just helps spread the ballast out. There's that section ballasted. I've put the glue on it, leave it overnight to dry now. One thing I haven't showed you is points. Obviously when you're ballasting over points, you need to be very careful, keeping ballast out of the blades so it doesn't foul the blades or the tie bar, and out of the guide rails as well and around the frog. So a little bit more care and attention is needed when you're ballasting around points. And also if you've got powered points by motors, that none of the ballast is going to fall down through the hole and foul up your point motor. So I've given it a clean up now, given it a vacuum, got all the loose ballast off. What you will find is there's going to be spots where the glue didn't take for whatever reason, and you're going to end up with little bald spots, but you can go in afterwards and just fill those in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to weather the ballast in the track using the airbrush. So I'll get that out and get it ready. So to weather my track, I'm using some Railmatch Sleeper Grime. I've put a 50-50 mixture in the pot here, so that's 50% Sleeper Grime and 50% thinners. Make sure it's well mixed. What I do is I put my finger over the end of the airbrush and then just press down on the trigger. That forces the air back up through the pot and helps mix the paint. Now we'll do a couple of tests. I've got my compressor set to about 20 psi, which I find is just about right for this airbrush. And you just see it's coming out there nice and light. So I don't want it to come out too heavy, I just want it to come out nice and light so I can thicken it up if I need to. So important, you mask off any areas because you don't want any overspill going onto your grass. So I've just put some kitchen paper down there just to protect it. And it's a case of just doing some gentle strokes up and down. You can see how it's just darkening the ballast. And then up and down the sleepers. You can see there how I've just given it a light coat. That's all I'm looking for because this is the main line. It's not going to be heavily soiled or grimy. I would put a much darker on if I was in the station area. So I'm going to carry on doing the rest of the tracks now and then we'll see how it looks. There you can see I've gone over it a couple of times with the airbrush. I've got it darker and lighter in places just to give varying effects. You can see here a bit where I haven't brushed how much lighter the ballast looks. The Sleeper Grime also takes the shine off the sleepers and makes them look a little bit more realistic. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. I think it doesn't look too bad. What I'm going to do now is put a bit of scenic material down the middle. There's some green scatter down the centre. So I'm going to leave that to dry overnight. Again, it's the same watered down PVA, painted on, scatter, put over the top, leave it to dry, come back, vacuum off the excess, and then I'll go up and down there with some static grass and then put some flowers and bushes and things in there just to fill the space. I've completed the scenics in between the rails. So you can see now how it blends in with the ballast. I've used 4mm static grass, some grass tufts, made up some flowers. So looking at the 3 different ballasts, which do you think looks best? I think scale wise this one looks right, which is the Aquarium gravel. This is the Woodland Scenic, which I think if you've got a modern era layout looks better. It's the right colour. And maybe if you have an older era, the bird grit looks better. There's different colours in it, so it reflects what they would have used. They would have used any quarry that was local to where they were building the railway to supply the ballast. I think it's hasn't turned out too bad. And this bit of ballast is just about dry, so I'll do the scenics on there as well. And then I'll carry on with the scenics over here, for the hillside, and in the corner where the church is going to go. Hope you found that useful, the different types of ballast I use in my layout. So please don't forget to leave your comments down below. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button for me. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye for now.